The conference room on the third floor had a window that faced the parking lot. March in Midland, Texas, the sun was already hard at 8 in the morning, the kind of flat white light that doesn't give you any shadows to hide in. Donovan Fales sat at the head of the table, 9 weeks in the building. MBA from Vanderbilt. Background in logistics. He looked around the room, then looked at me, and said it in front of 7 people. Going forward, Howard, you can just observe. I'd been at Crestline Energy Services for 18 years. I'd built the pipeline integrity system that every technician in this building relied on every single day. I nodded, pushed my chair back about 2 inches from the table. Not dramatically, just settling. Opened my leather portfolio, the brown one worn soft along the spine. Set it on my lap below the table line. Something in that room changed, not dramatic, just different. That was the biggest mistake Donovan Fales ever made. My name is Howard Callum, I'm 54, and this is what happened. I started at Crestline on February 12, 2006. Pipeline integrity technician, Midland facility. I was 36, had a mechanical engineering degree from a state school nobody's heard of, 2 kids in middle school, and a mortgage I needed to keep feeding. First 4 years, I was on the ground, crawling under equipment, reading gauges, logging inspection data by hand. You learn a pipeline system the way you learn anything that can seriously hurt people if you get it wrong, slowly, carefully, and with a lot of respect for what you don't know yet. There's a section we call Segment 7. Built in 2009, runs northeast of Midland toward Odessa. I've walked every mile of it. I know where it runs hot in summer, where the pressure drops if a valve upstream is slightly off. Nobody taught me that. You just accumulated over enough years. By 2013, I was compliance manager. By 2016, director of pipeline integrity and compliance across all 3 Crestline facilities, Midland, Odessa, Lubbock. 44 direct and indirect reports. I managed relationships with our field inspectors, built the SCADA alert architecture that every shift supervisor monitored, and maintained compliance documentation for our API 1169 and .49 CFR Part .195 certifications. Those certifications were tied to roughly $28 million in annual contracts. ExxonMobil, Pioneer Natural Resources, Enterprise Products. Here's what most people outside the industry don't understand about pipeline compliance work. It's not exciting. Nobody's writing about it in any trade newsletter. It's inspection logs, calibration schedules, alert acknowledgement records that have to be updated every cycle with 0 exceptions. It's the kind of work that when it's done right, nobody thinks about it, and when it's done wrong, you get a federal inspection team showing up with clipboards and a lot of very specific questions. I built the SCADA alert structure in 2011, and the reason I built it matters. That September, we had a pressure incident near the Segment 7 midpoint. A transducer was drifting, not catastrophically, just slowly. The way these things go when nobody's watching the right numbers. It went undetected for 11 days. Why? Because the monitoring protocol at the time lived in 3 people's heads and an informal spreadsheet that one guy kept on his desktop. One of those 3 people was out sick. Another one was covering 2 facilities that week. The third one, and I'm not throwing anyone under the bus here, just missed it. We caught it before anything serious happened. But it was close enough that I couldn't let it go. I spent the next 6 weeks building a system from scratch. Every pressure alert fired automatically. Every alert logged automatically, timestamped, tied to a specific transducer ID. Every alert required a digital acknowledgement from a named technician within 24 hours. If the acknowledgement didn't come, the alert escalated up the chain. No informal spreadsheets, no relying on institutional memory. The system assumed that any single person could be sick, on vacation, or just having a bad week, and it still couldn't fail. That system ran for 13 years without a major gap. Every shift supervisor across all 3 facilities used it. New hires learned it their first week. People came and went, but the structure stayed, because I'd built it into the workflow deep enough that it just became how things worked. Then Donovan Fales walked through the front door in January 2024. He came from a logistics company in Nashville. Consumer supply chain, shipping coordination, warehouse throughput, that kind of world. No pipeline background. But he had that MBA and he had a deck full of slides about operational efficiency. And our CEO, Carl Binkton, who ran Crestline from Houston and visited Midland maybe 3 times a year, loved him immediately. The first thing Donovan did was restructure reporting lines. Safety and compliance, my department, had always reported directly to the plant general manager. That's not just tradition. .49 CFR Part 19.5 is explicit about it. Your safety function has to be organizationally independent from operations. The reason is simple. If safety reports through operations, production pressure can quietly override safety decisions. It happens slowly. Nobody announces it, but it happens. Donovan moved safety and compliance under operations. Under himself, I raised the concern privately in his office, professional tone. I brought the printed regulation, set it on the table between us. He looked at it, looked at me and said, "Howard, I appreciate the institutional knowledge, but we need to modernize how this company operates." Institutional knowledge. He said it like it was a limitation to overcome. He brought 2 people with him from Nashville. Renee Bowen became Director of Operational Excellence, a title that hadn't existed at Crestline before, and as far as I could tell, meant she attended every meeting and asked for dashboards. Then there was Nate Fales, Donovan's son, 26 years old, no technical background in pipeline or anything close to it. He was named Safety Coordinator. Nate was fine, honestly. He worked hard, and he showed up on time, and he genuinely wanted to do the job right. He just didn't know what he didn't know. In consumer logistics, that gap costs you a late shipment. In pipeline safety, that gap can cost you a federal nonconformance or something a lot worse. Over the following weeks, my responsibilities started moving to other people. Client audit coordination went to Renee. Supplier qualification reviews went to Nate. The corrective action tracking system I'd built and maintained for 11 years was being migrated to a new cloud platform. Some SaaS tool Donovan's old company had used for tracking shipping delays and inventory discrepancies. Completely different application. I flagged the incompatibility twice, both times in writing, both times to Donovan directly. His response both times, "We're moving forward." Then came the meeting. March 14, 2024, Thursday morning, conference room, 3rd floor. Donovan laid out the Phase 2 restructuring. Quality audits moving to Renee. Compliance documentation moving to Nate's oversight. My role repositioned as senior advisor. A box on the org chart he projected on screen. No direct reports, dotted line to nobody in particular. That's when he said it. I watched Gloria Pruitt, who'd worked the field with me since 2007, one of the best technicians I'd ever worked with, press her pen into her notepad hard enough to leave a mark, but not write a single word. Nate looked at the table. Renee kept her eyes on Donovan. 3 other people in the room found somewhere else to look. I didn't say anything. Moved my chair back 2 inches, opened the portfolio, set it on my lap below the table line, out of sight. And something in that room shifted. Not anything anyone would necessarily notice, but I noticed it. The Monday after, I came in at 6:48 a.m. My badge still worked on the main entrance, still worked on the stairwell. When I got to my office on the 3rd floor, the corner one, the one I'd been in since 2017, there was a banker's box sitting on the desk. My stuff was already packed inside. Framed certifications, a photo from the 2016 inspection that we passed with 0 findings. My old Crestline thermos, the one with the logo they redesigned in 2019. Someone had been in my office over the weekend going through my things. The new desk was on the 2nd floor, near the supply storage room. 3 workstations pushed together, the kind of setup they use for temp hires during peak season. The fluorescent lights hummed at a lower frequency down there, different from the 3rd floor. I'd worked both long enough that I could tell which floor I was on just from that sound without looking up. I set the banker's box down, put my thermos next to the monitor, opened my portfolio, sat there. Most people would read, "You can just observe as a punishment, a sidelining." And yeah, that's what it was meant to be. But Donovan made a calculation error that I don't think he ever fully understood, even weeks later. When you remove someone from their responsibilities but keep them in the building, you haven't neutralized them, you've freed them. My calendar, which used to be blocked solid from 6:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., was suddenly empty. Ghost invites from recurring meetings I'd been removed from kept pinging my screen every week. Tuesday 8 a.m., Integrity Review Board. Wednesday 2 p.m., Corrective Action Meeting. Thursday 10, Client Audit Prep. Little reminders for meetings I wasn't in anymore, popping up and disappearing. So I did what he told me to do. I observed. My badge still opened every door in the facility. Nobody had asked IT to update my access levels. I walked the pipeline monitoring room on sublevel 1. I visited the calibration station. I sat in the break room and listened to conversations. And I kept my portfolio open on my lap, writing things down with the date next to every entry. Here's something worth saying about what that felt like. Because I think a lot of people in certain jobs at a certain age know this experience. When you've spent 18 years building something, not just doing a job, but genuinely constructing something that works, something that protects people and keeps contracts running and passes federal audits, and then someone who's been in the building 9 weeks tells you to sit quietly and watch, there's a specific kind of quiet that settles in. Not rage, not panic, just clarity. I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew it the way I knew Segment 7 runs hot in August and PT series transducers need recalibration every 90 days without exception. Not because I'm smarter than anyone else in that building, but because I'd been paying attention for 18 years and they hadn't. The first crack showed up on April 3rd. I was at the second floor desk, eating lunch, when I heard Renee in the hallway on her phone, voice tight. She was talking to Nate about the upcoming ExxonMobil quarterly compliance review, scheduled for April 22nd. The pre-audit documentation package was due to ExxonMobil by April 9th. She was asking Nate where the previous audit responses were stored. I could hear his voice faintly through her phone. I think they're somewhere in the shared drive, maybe under compliance or operations. I took a bite of my sandwich. The folder path was Safety Compliance Client Audits, ExxonMobil 2023 Q4, Resent Package and Pertl v2.4 I had named it. Built the version control protocol, set the naming convention so that anyone reading the file name would know v2.4 was the final submitted version and not a working draft. But I was observing. 6 days later, Renee sent the wrong package to ExxonMobil. She pulled v1.8. A working draft with internal review comments still visible throughout the document, including a note I'd written in the margin. PT9 transducer data inconsistent, needs field verification before submission. Paula Holt, ExxonMobil's quality manager, someone I'd worked with directly for 6 years, called the Crestline main line and asked for me by name. The front desk transferred her to Renee instead. I heard about it from Gloria, who heard it from the front desk coordinator. That was the first crack. The second crack came on May 3rd. The new SAS platform went live. Nate had been tasked with migrating all historical corrective action records from my system into it. The problem was that my system used a coding scheme I'd built specifically for pipeline operations: facility code, year, sequence number, severity tier, root cause category. So a record might be labeled MDL 2019-047 T2 PRS, which told you it was a Midland facility finding from 2019, sequence 47, severity tier 2, pressure-related root cause. Any technician who'd been trained on the system could look at that code and immediately know what they were dealing with and whether it was related to anything else in the history. The new platform used flat sequential numbering. Record 1, record 2, record 3. No severity coding, no root cause linkage. No way to cross-reference related findings across facilities or across years. Nate got about 62% of the records transferred before the field mapping broke. The remaining 38%, roughly 290 corrective action records going back to 2009, existed only in my original system, in a folder structure that Nate described in an email to Donovan as overly complex and difficult to navigate. I still had access to the shared drive. I could see the access logs. Nate had been inside that folder structure 19 times over 3 days, opening files, closing them, opening different ones, trying to find a map that wasn't labeled map because I'd built it as a living system, not a filing cabinet. Everything was connected by logic, not by a label on the door. Among those missing 290 records, the entire corrective action history for Segment 7. Every finding, every resolution, every escalation going back to 2009, 15 years of documentation on the most operationally complex section of pipeline we ran. The third crack arrived on May 10th. I was at my desk at 6:48 a.m., coffee in hand, watching the parking lot through the window the way I'd done most mornings for years. Gloria Pruitt's truck was already in the lot. She didn't usually come in before 7:30. I went down to the break room. She was there. She looked at me and said quietly, PHMSA notification, compliance review, June 8th, Pipeline and Hazardous Materials, Safety Administration. Federal, a PHMSA compliance review covers your entire integrity management program, corrective action system, calibration management, organizational independence of the safety function, document control processes, incident traceability. Everything I had built. Everything that had been reorganized, migrated, or quietly set aside over the past 6 weeks. The scope included DOT 49 CFR Part 19.5 Subpart F Integrity Management, and the lead inspector was a man named Lance Greer. I dealt with Lance twice before. He was thorough in a way that left absolutely no room for "we're still working on that." He asked for documentation. You produced it. You didn't produce it, you got a finding. Simple as that. 29 days away, Donovan called an emergency meeting on May 15th. I wasn't invited, but Gloria was, and she told me afterward. Renee presented the current state of the corrective action system, the new platform, the 62% migration, the 38% still sitting in what she called the legacy system. Donovan asked where the missing records were. Renee said they were in the legacy system, and they were working on extraction. Legacy system, she meant my shared drive folders, the ones Nate had been lost in for 3 weeks. On May 17th, Nate came to my desk, laptop under his arm. He stood there a moment before saying anything. Then he asked if I had a few minutes. I closed my portfolio, looked up at him. "Sure," I said. "I'm just observing." He didn't react to that. Maybe he caught it, maybe he didn't. He asked me how to locate the calibration records for the PT series transducers, PT7 through PT12, covering October 2023 through March 2024. I told him the exact folder path. He wrote it down. Then he asked about the corrective action coding scheme, what the severity tiers meant, how root cause categories were assigned, how to trace related findings across facilities. I explained all of it, completely without editorializing. He thanked me and walked directly into Donovan's office, closed the door. 20 minutes later, I saw him walk back out. I opened my portfolio to page 43 and wrote down the date and time. That same week, Renee started copying me on emails, not asking for input, just CCing me. Audit preparation threads, document compilation requests, calibration verification status updates. She was assembling the pre-review package for the PHMSA inspection, and the gaps were becoming visible even to her. I think she was hoping I'd jump in without being formally asked. I read every email. I didn't reply to any of them. What I did do was walk through the calibration station on sub-level 1 on May 20th. Same badge tap I'd done thousands of times. Low beep, click, door swings open. I checked the board. The PT9 pressure transducer, the same unit flagged in that draft document sent to ExxonMobil, had a calibration sticker on the housing. Green sticker. Next due date printed in black. April 8th, 2024. It was May 20th. That unit had been running active pipeline monitoring for 42 days past its calibration window. Every pressure reading it produced in that 42-day window was potentially unreliable. Every operational decision made on those readings was made on unverified data. I also checked the SCADA alert acknowledgement log, the system I'd built in 2011, the one that required a named technician to sign off on every alert. Within 24 hours, had fired 11 pressure integrity alerts since my responsibilities were redistributed. All 100 were sitting in the queue, unacknowledged. Nobody had been assigned to review them. Nobody had even opened the acknowledgement screen. 11 alerts, 42 days on PT9. 290 records missing, org chart in direct violation of federal independence requirements. I wrote all of it down, page 43. Dated, handwritten. I didn't tell anyone. I had raised concerns twice in writing. I had been told we're moving forward. I had been told to observe, so I was observing. And I was documenting what I observed, which is exactly what a compliance professional is supposed to do. May 28th, 11 days before the PHMSA review. Donovan's assistant sent a calendar invite at 4:51 p.m. Subject line, pre-review alignment, mandatory attendance, conference room, 3rd floor. The one with the window facing the parking lot. I walked in at 8:57 a.m. Donovan was already there, Renee, Nate, Gloria. 2 people from operations I recognized from the Odessa facility. Carl Binkton was on speakerphone from Houston, his voice coming through slightly delayed. The way speakerphone always sounds when someone's holding the phone too close to their face. And at the far end of the table sat a woman I hadn't seen before. Legal pad in front of her, not saying anything. I found out later her name was Wanda Sato, outside counsel from the firm Crestline kept on retainer. Renee presented the status update. Green, yellow, red categories on a slide she'd built. A lot of yellow, some red, data migration sitting at 67%. Calibration gaps acknowledged but not resolved. The org chart still showed safety and compliance reporting through operations, through Donovan, which was the same direct nonconformance against federal independence requirements that I'd flagged in writing back in January. Carl's voice came through the speaker. What's our exposure here? 4 seconds of silence. In a conference room, 4 seconds feels a lot longer than it sounds. Donovan started to say something. Then Carl's voice again, cutting through. Howard, what's your assessment? Everyone in the room looked at me. I didn't rush. I opened my portfolio to page 43, looked at what I'd written over the past several weeks. Then I looked up at the speakerphone in the center of the table, not at Donovan, not at Renee, just at the speakerphone. The PT9 pressure transducer has been out of calibration since April 8th. As of today, it's been running active pipeline monitoring for 50 days past its calibration window. Every pressure reading that unit produced in that period needs to be flagged, documented, and reviewed before the inspection. The corrective action migration is at 67%. The missing 33% includes the entire Segment 7 corrective action history going back to 2009, which Lance Greer will ask about in the first hour of day one. The organizational chart shows safety and compliance reporting through operations, which is a direct nonconformance against .49 CFR Part 19.5 independence requirements. And the ExxonMobil pre-review package sent on April 9th contained a draft version with internal comments still visible. Paula Holt has already flagged it to our account team. I paused. That's what I've observed. The room was very quiet. Carl's voice came through the speaker. No warmth in it at all. Howard, what do we need to do? Donovan opened his mouth. Carl said, Howard? I'm asking Howard. That was the moment, not a confrontation, not a speech. Just a speakerphone pointed at the one person in the room who knew where everything was, while the man who told him to sit quietly and watch sat 3 chairs away, very still. I spent the next 13 days rebuilding. No formal reassignment paperwork yet. That came later. I just started working because the work needed doing, and I was the only one who could do it in the time we had. First thing, PT9, I ran the transducer through its full recalibration cycle myself. Documented every step, flagged the 50-day gap in a formal deviation report, and cross-referenced every pressure reading from that window against backup sensor data from adjacent units on the line. Where the readings matched with intolerance, I documented it. Where they didn't, I flagged the specific dates for operations review. It took 2 full days. Then the corrective action records. I pulled the original system, my shared drive folders, the ones Nate had called overly complex, and built a cross-reference document that mapped every old coding entry to its corresponding new platform record. For the 33% that hadn't migrated, I rebuilt the entries manually, one by one, starting with Segment 7 290 records. Some of them I remembered writing. Some of them I had to reconstruct from the underlying inspection logs, which fortunately were still intact because nobody had touched that part of the archive. I also rewrote the org chart. Safety and compliance reporting directly to Carl Bington, with a dotted line to the plant general manager, no longer under operations, no longer under Donovan. Carl approved it over the phone in under 10 minutes. The PHMSA review happened on June 8th. Lance Greer and his team spent 2 full days at the Midland facility. I sat in on every session not as an observer this time, as the compliance representative. Lance asked about the corrective action system in the first 40 minutes of day 1, exactly as I'd expected. I walked him through the full architecture, the coding scheme, the Segment 7 history, the migration gap, and how it had been resolved. He reviewed the PT9 deviation report, asked 4 follow-up questions, reviewed the backup sensor cross-reference, and moved on. One finding at the end of the review, a minor observation about document revision dating on a single procedure, a formatting issue, not a substantive one. No nonconformances. No corrective action requests issued. PHMSA maintained Crestline's compliance status without interruption. ExxonMobil contract intact. $28 million. After Lance Greer and his team left, after the conference room cleared out and people drifted back to their desks, I walked back down to the 2nd floor. The desk near the supply storage room. My thermos was still there, right where I'd left it the first Monday after they moved me down here. Old Crestline logo, faded at the edges, sitting next to the clean branded bottles the newer hires used. I sat there for a few minutes, didn't open the portfolio, just sat. 3 weeks later, Carl called me directly, not through Donovan, not through anyone, just my direct line. VP of Pipeline Safety and Compliance, reporting to the CEO. Salary from $119,500 to $195,000. Full authority over safety systems across all 3 facilities: Midland, Odessa, Lubbock. The title mattered less than the reporting line. Independence restored, exactly the way the regulation had always required. Donovan Fales resigned in August 2024. Renee Bowen left with him. Nate stayed. He runs operational reporting now, and he's genuinely good at it. About a month after I moved back to the 3rd floor, he came to my office and asked if I'd walk him through the SCADA alert architecture. We spent 3 afternoons on it. He asked good questions. I rebuilt the calibration system with additional redundancies. Hired 2 pipeline integrity engineers, both people I'd mentored at previous companies, who came when I called. Wrote a 39-page training manual documenting the full system structure. Anyone on the team can learn it now. It doesn't live only in my head anymore. But here's what stays with me. Not the title, not the salary. It's May 20th. Sub-level 1, that same low beep and click of the badge reader I'd heard thousands of times. The calibration station, PT9 sitting there with a green sticker showing a due date 42 days in the past, and nobody knowing, nobody even looking. Because the person who always looked had been told he could just observe after the recertification, I put the new calibration sticker on PT9 myself, pressed it flat against the housing, wrote the next due date in permanent marker. First accurate sticker on that unit in 42 days. If this was worth your time, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. I read all of them. More stories coming. Thanks for being here. The most dangerous person in any organization isn't the one making noise at the top. It's the one who already knows where every crack in the foundation is, sitting quietly at a desk near the supply room, writing things down. When you tell someone who built the system to just observe, you didn't sideline them. You handed them a front row seat to watch everything you don't understand start falling apart.